Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our eminent speakers who are now entering the hall. Let's welcome them with a hearty round of applause. Good evening and a hearty welcome to the 4th Annual Women's Symposium hosted by Bharat, Soka, Gakkai. We warmly welcome our distinguished dignitaries and eminent guests who have joined us and been very kindly taken time out of their busy schedules to be with us here today. We also welcome our dearest fellow members of Bharat, Soka, Gakkai who have joined us here at the BSG Headquarters and through the broadcast. A big hello to everyone. It is our honor to welcome you all to this historic gathering. We extend our gratitude to each of you for your unwavering dedication in building a world that honors the dignity of each life and embraces inclusivity and equality. With women leading the 21st century with strength and vision, let's engage in today's Women's Symposium themed Breaking Barriers, Women Shaping a New Society for Dignity of Life. I'm also delighted to welcome and introduce our esteemed speakers for today who have truly been the catalysts of change in society and are committed to edify a world that glimmers with the light of peace and dignity. I request BSG Chairperson Mr. Vishesh Gupta to please present a bouquet to our 4 speakers as I introduce them. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Professor Bijayalaxmi Nanda, Principal, Miranda House College, Delhi University. A woman with enlightening ideas, inspiring all around her with her wisdom and experience. Professor Bijayalaxmi Nanda, Principal of Miranda House and Professor of Political Science, specializes in gender, political theory, and human rights. Her extensive research includes publications on rights, discourse, and sex-selective abortion in India. She advises state governments and international organizations such as the United Nations Population Fund, United Nations Development Programme, United Nations Women, and World Health Organization on gender policy, and serves as project director for a study on child sex ratio and violence against women. Recognized for her contributions, Professor Nanda has received accolades such as the Indian Council of Social Science Research Doctoral Fellowship and the Delhi University Vice Chancellor's Teachers Excellence Award in 2017. Her career exemplifies a deep commitment to advancing gender equality, human rights, and policy advocacy in India and beyond. We are honored to have you with us here today. Our next speaker, Dr. Rita Jairath. Dr. Jairath is a trailblazing figure in Indian women's bodybuilding, distinguished as an IFBB, which is the International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness Pro Figure Athlete, and the only woman IFBB and Fitness Pro League international judge in Asia. She has garnered numerous national and international accolades, including recognition from Forbes India as one of the country's most inspiring women. Dr. Jairath is a dedicated mother of an autistic son and an accomplished entrepreneur, serving as the director of Ritambe Nutrition Pvt Ltd and founder of the supplement brand Prof. She holds pivotal roles in sports administration, such as head of department safeguarding at All India Football Federation, and is actively involved with the Paralympic Committee of India. Dr. Jairath's contributions extend beyond sports to advocacy and empowerment, recognized through her TED Talks and as a World Peace Ambassador. In addition to this, Dr. Jairath is also known as a renowned Bharatnatyam dancer, having performed at various platforms. Her journey is marked by resilience, leadership, and commitment to empowering women across the globe. We are extremely grateful to have you here with us. Our next speaker for today is Ms. Archana Dutta. Ms. Archana Dutta is a seasoned leader with over 27 years in loyalty initiatives at renowned companies like Hyatt Hotels and Lufthansa German Airlines. Transitioning from corporate life in 2020, she founded Second Act, focusing on personal and organizational growth through self-development and leadership enhancement, especially empowering women. Her podcast, Discover Your Second Act, features 140 plus episodes with industry leaders and celebrities. Ms. Dutta has conducted over 50 masterclasses and workshops promoting inclusivity and empowerment. As a social entrepreneur, she leads Pedal On, advocating well-being and sustainability, impacting lives of women from underprivileged backgrounds through livelihood and environmental conservation. Ms. Datta's dedication and passion inspire transformative impact, amplifying voices and mentoring with organizations such as Ladies Who Lead, Aspire for Her, and many more. It is an honor for us to have you here with us today. Our fourth speaker for the day is Ms. Namrta Bangia. Ms. Bangia is a Senior Director at Global Mass Transit, specializing in sustainable infrastructure development with over 18 years of global experience. She has authored numerous reports and articles engaging with senior officials and industry leaders. She advocates for decarbonization and technology integration in international forums while promoting inclusivity and diversity, particularly encouraging women leaders in STEM fields. As a business communication expert, Ms. Bangia enhances cross-cultural understanding through her extensive global client engagements. She also mentors MBA students in India and Canada, shaping future business leaders with a foundation of trust and respect. Her career underscores a commitment to sustainable development, diversity promotion, and leadership empowerment. We warmly welcome you here today with us. Ladies and gentlemen, let us once again welcome all our speakers with a huge round of applause. I request you all to please take the stage. Thank you, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to invite BSG Director Ms. Rashi Ahuja to share the inaugural address.
Good evening, everyone. So on behalf of Bharat Soka Gakkai, I extend a warm welcome to all our members and friends who have gathered here and to all those who have joined us via broadcast. A very special welcome to our eminent guests who have honored us with their presence today for the Women's Symposium on Breaking Barriers, Women Shaping a New Society for the Dignity of Life. Our gathering today celebrates the profound impact of women in transforming societal norms and structures to uphold human dignity. We as women have shattered countless glass ceilings, defied limitations, and carved our own paths. The esteemed guests and speakers today are a testament of this ongoing journey. I feel extremely honored to welcome our venerated speakers, Professor Nanda, Dr. Rita Jairath, Ms. Archana Dutta, and Miss Namrta Bangia. So Professor Nanda, the esteemed principal of Miranda House, your dedication to education and your unwavering commitment to empowering young women are truly commendable. Dr. Rita Jairath, your powerful personality and life force leaves us spellbound. Courageously facing and overcoming daunting challenges, you've opened a path where none existed before. You are a pioneering figure in the world of sports bodybuilding. You shatter stereotypes and defy limitations, proving that strength and determination have no gender. Miss Archana Dutta, your courageous story of exiting a thriving corporate career to embrace a more fulfilling life, believing in yourself by overcoming self-doubts and manifesting your full potential for the sake of empowering others. Truly, the second act of your life is an inspiration for all. Yeah. Miss Namrta Bangia, a powerful voice for change. Your journey from a young girl with big dreams to your focus, passion, and dedication towards your work, carving new paths with your wisdom and courage. I'm so delighted to see you on this stage today. You've pushed boundaries and advocate for a more inclusive and equitable society. So Dr. Daisaku Ikeda said, I quote, "Women are the driving force for change. When women are respected, society changes for the better." History echoes this sentiment throughout the ages. From social reformers like Sarojini Naidu to scientific pioneers like Dr. Kadimini Basu, India's first practicing lady doctor, women have consistently defied limitations and charted new paths. Truly, as Michelle Obama says, I quote, "There is no limit to what we as women can accomplish," unquote. Valuing the wisdom and capabilities of women is critical to the development of any organization or society. When I think of the abundant possibilities that the empowerment of women has to offer to the world, I am reminded of an analogy that appears in one of the Mahayana sutras, which form the base of the teachings that we follow in Bharat Soka Gakkai regarding the light of the stars during daytime. Despite the fact that countless stars exist in the heavens, each emitting its own bright light, as visible at night, we tend to be unaware of them during the day. Similarly, we need to ensure that we perceive and appreciate the significance of the extraordinary efforts and achievements of women that shine throughout the world and form the bedrock of our societies, regardless of whether they are seen or unseen. Mahayana Sutras also repeatedly depict women who not only pray for their own happiness and peace, but also dedicate themselves to helping those who are facing adversity. In the Shrimala Sutra, for example, a woman makes a vow in the presence of the Buddha, saying, "If I see lonely people who have lost their freedom, people who are suffering from illness, disaster, or poverty, I will not abandon them. I will bring them spiritual and material comfort." Amidst mounting challenges, global challenges such as increasingly severe climate change, conflicts between countries, poverty, and a lack of respect for life, it's urgent that we restart and accelerate the progress towards a society that leaves no one behind, the core spirit of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. While this will not be an easy task, I strongly believe that women's empowerment can become a driving force towards such a society. Together, we aim to inspire, educate, and empower participants to contribute actively to creating a future where gender equality and human dignity are non-negotiable principles. Let us harness the collective wisdom and strength of women to shape a more just and equitable world for generations to come. Thank you. I look forward to an incredible symposium filled with learning, collaboration, and the power of like-minded women. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ahuja. Now the Sunshine Chorus Group, the women's choir group of Bharat Soka Gakkai, will present a song titled Murigasaki Beach. Murigasaki Beach is a song based on the poem composed by Mr. Daisaku Ikeda, who was the third president of Soka Gakkai. An excerpt from the poem reads, "With my friend by the shore, Murigasaki, pungent seaside smell, waves withdrawing, 19-year-old boys pondering what path to choose, philosophical talk as the hours go by, Murigasaki Beach is a song of friendship, a song of remembrance, and a song that encapsulates the quest for a philosophical path. Let's welcome the Sunshine Chorus group with a huge round of applause. Wow, what a breathtaking performance. Your harmonious voices have truly filled our hearts with joy. Thank you so much. We will now hear a testimonial of a BSG member on how she has been able to break barriers in her own life by basing herself on the philosophy of Soka humanism. I invite Ms. Gauri Gupta to share the same.
Good evening. I'm Gauri Gupta from Mumbai. I became a voluntary member of Bharat Soka Gakkai in 2010. This was at a time when I had just begun my corporate journey with a reputable FMCG firm, Unilever. As I began the 9-to-5 grind in my dream job, questions about the purpose of my life began occupying my mind. I had seen my mother practice for over a decade, and members of Soka Gakkai speak about inherent happiness and finding a mission in life. This inspired me to read about the meaning of life and the purpose of work from the writings of Dr. Daisaku Ikeda, the founding president of SGI. Through his writings, I understood what it means to be an authentic leader. I took Mr. Ikeda as my mentor and applied his guidance at work. As a result, in my sales role, I was able to turn around the performance of two of the weakest and most problematic states I was responsible for. Furthermore, being one of the few women in sales gave me a chance to experience firsthand the issues women face in this field, such as no access to clean toilets, safety regulations in hotels, disrespectful entertainment seen as common practice in sales teams, to name a few. I used my voice to bring about new policies related to safety of women and changes in subtle nuances of the culture at my workplace. In 2015, I read Mr. Ikeda's peace proposals, where he mentions about justice, equality, and the crucial role women play in building a new age. This gave me a direction of effecting social change via my profession. I began choosing projects at my workplace that could use the power of brand narratives and advertising to bridge the gender gap by changing stereotypes. I took on a seemingly impossible project, which was to change the name of a popular face cream brand owned by my organization called Fair and Lovely. I wanted to shift the focus away from the stereotypical standard of beauty, fair skin. Most people in the marketing community at the time believed that this would never come into play, as this was antithetical to running a profitable business. However, I was convinced in my heart that society needs to move forward from judging people based on their skin color. A woman is so much more than how she looks, and it was time to leave these outdated notions far behind us. The determination to make a change was strengthened in my life when I came across Mr. Ikeda's 2017 peace proposal, where he shares the efforts of a Tanzanian woman who changes her village, and he shares, I quote, "The ability to solve problems is not something reserved for special people. It is a path that opens before any of us when we face reality head-on, taking up some aspect of its weighty burden and acting with persistence," I unquote. I spent the next couple of years leading several pieces of consumer research, meeting women of different ages across different parts of India, and having strategy conversations with the company leadership to make this change possible. Despite resounding evidence that we can make this change without losing consumer franchise, this was a tough decision for the company to take, and the top leadership who were most invested in this change had retired. In regular parlance, the project was now doomed never to happen. However, based on my spiritual training in Gakkai, I was determined and didn't give up, and requested permission to continue collecting even more data. On 25th May 2020, George Floyd was shot dead in the United States because of his skin color, triggering a global uproar. Within a few days, the global leadership of Unilever decided to reopen this project. Realizing the work is ready to take to the market, the formal announcement of the name change was made in June 2020, and the change effected in August 2020 in India. This was followed by 20 countries across the world in the next few months. The brand that has over 1 billion consumers across the world, Fair and Lovely, was now to be called Glow and Lovely. This brought about a landmark change in the beauty industry, where many other top players, in fact all of the players in the field, decided to remove the words white, fair, and light when it came to skin tone, effecting a big change in how women and men across the world perceive beauty. Though the journey towards this goal was filled with challenges, it has helped me bring forth my own inner potential. I am even more determined Now, to continue using my life to break barriers and hand build a new society where the dignity of all life is respected. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing such an inspiring report. Now we will have a joint report by BSG and Pvt on the collaborative work initiated by the two organizations and how it is creating an impact in the lives of women. I invite Ms. Deepti Manchanda from BSG and Ms. Sunera from Pvt to share their report.
Good evening, everyone. I am Deepti Manchanda. I live in Delhi with my husband and 2 daughters. I became a voluntary member of BSG in 1996. I have been working in the social sector for over 2 decades, providing behavioral and soft skill training and capacity building solutions to various organizations.
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम सुनहरा है। मैं पैडल के साथ 2021 से जुड़ी हुई हूँ। मैं महरम नगर गांव से दिल्ली से हूँ। मैं अपने 3 बच्चों के साथ रहती हूँ। कुछ समय पहले मेरे पति मेरी और मेरे बच्चों की जिम्मेदारियाँ से पीछे हट गए थे और हमने फिर अलग रहने का सोचा और तब से मैं अलग रह रही हूँ और अपने सारे घर का खर्चा, 3 बच्चों की परवरिश अकेले ही उठा रही हूँ। मैंने कुछ सिलाई का काम शुरू किया और अपने घर का खर्चा संभाला, पर मुझे हमेशा ऐसा लगा कि मैं अपने बच्चों को खुश नहीं रख पा रही हूँ और उन्हें जो मिलना चाहिए वो नहीं दे पा रही हूँ। तो गांव के लोग और रिश्तेदार भी काफ़ी टोकने लगे। इस वजह से मुझे अपने ऊपर से भरोसा उठ चुका था। मुझे 2021 में अर्चना मैम मिली, जिन्होंने मुझे अपनी कंपनी पैडल के बारे में बताया और उन्होंने मुझे हौसला दिया कि मैं अपनी ज़िंदगी में आगे बढ़ सकती हूँ। पैडल ने मुझे अच्छी सिलाई करना सिखाया। पहले तो मैं घर में ही कपड़े सिलती थी, लेकिन पैडल में आने के बाद में मैंने काफ़ी नए तरीके से सिलाई शुरू करी। काफ़ी अच्छे तरीके से नई चीज़ें बनाई, जैसे नेकलेस है, बैग है, राखियाँ हैं और भी तरह तरह के कपड़े सिले हमने। और पिछले 3 सालों में मैं पैडल में आज मास्टर टेलर बन गई हूँ। और जब कोई नई औरत हमारे सेंटर में आती हैं तो अब मैं उन्हें सिलाई सिखाती हूँ। पैडल की वजह से मुझे खूब नई पहचान मिली और मेरे दिल में हमेशा एक डर रहता था, शायद कभी ज़िंदगी में खुश ना रह पाऊँ, शायद मेरी किस्मत में इतना ही था। मैं इससे ज़्यादा अपने बच्चों के लिए कुछ नहीं कर पाई, लेकिन अब मुझे लगता है कि मैं कुछ कर पा रही हूँ।
In April 2023, BSG partnered with Pedal as a part of its community outreach program. BSG's intervention focused on empowering the women in believing in themselves so that they could lead happier and meaningful lives. When I got to know about this program, I jumped at the opportunity and joyfully volunteered my time to plan and organize the workshops on behalf of BSG. BSG's focus since the very beginning has been on empowering each individual, particularly women. This is based on the guiding principles of the 3 founding presidents of Soka Gakkai, who were strong advocates and believers in women opening the gateway to transformation of society. We can understand this from the words of Daisaku Ikeda, who was the 3rd president of Soka Gakkai, who wrote in his 2010 peace proposal, quote, 100 years ago, when the social standing of women in Japan was extremely low, the founding president of the Soka Gakkai, Sunesburo Makiguchi, worked passionately to expand advanced educational opportunities for women who, out of the belief that it is they who will build a better society. He established a program that offered correspondence education to women who were unable to receive a secondary education while, after graduating from primary school, compiling learning materials and editing a related periodical. He was also instrumental in establishing a facility that offered free classes to women with limited financial resources to learn sewing and embroidery, skills that constituted a major element in Japanese girls' education at that time. It was as dear to his spirit that I created the correspondence programs at Soka University and founded Soka Women's College, unquote. Mr. Ikeda has often called women as peacemakers. As he says, women are naturally oriented towards such values as unity and harmony. He has also talked about the extremely important role that women can and must play in realizing a peaceful world in the 21st century. He often talked about making the 21st century a century of life. And he has said that a century of life must also be a century of women. It is only when women believe in themselves, stand up for themselves, when women are educated, will we be able to build a century of life, a century of peace. It is because of this ideology upheld by our founding presidents that BSG ventured into this partnership with Pedalon, which was already working on financial liberation and upskilling of women from underprivileged backgrounds. BSG's role was to support these women in believing in their inherent potential, what we call as life state of Buddhahood in our Buddhist practice. To relay this message, as BSG volunteers, we brainstormed, planned, and carried out interactive and creative sessions on self-awareness, time management, gender equality, teamwork, among others, which these women could relate to in their immediate work and domestic environment. We even talked about climate change and the SDGs in our workshops. As these women were the first generation learners, BSG focused on instilling confidence in them along with helping them build a vision for themselves. Our efforts were not just to empower them individually, rather, through them, how their entire family and their community and their next generation can also be empowered. The women enjoyed each workshop we conducted with them, and they learned how a single individual has so much potential within themselves. Each of these monthly sessions were equipped with easy games, skits, and open discussions. The women responded to each BSG workshop with open minds, and many a times they brought out creative solutions to individual and global challenges. Over the last 13 months of having this enabling relationship between Pedalon and BSG, the women have been able to break through the self-imposed and societal barriers, setting wonderful examples for their families, communities, and the world at large.
मुझे अब खूब हौसला आ गया है। मुझे लगता है कि मैं आज 500 लोगों के आगे खड़ी होकर बोल पा रही हूँ। ऐसे बड़े स्टेज पे ये सिर्फ दीप्ति दीदी उनके साथ आने वाली बीएसजी की बाकी दीदियों और अर्चना मैम की वजह से हुआ। मेरे परिवार में आज तक कभी किसी ने ऐसे काम नहीं किया। मैं पहली महिला हूँ जो आज इतने लोगों के सामने बोल रही हूँ। हमारे हाथों से बने हुए सामान का स्टॉल बाहर लगा हुआ है। हमारे काम को इतनी पहचान मिल रही है कि दीप्ति दीदी और बीएसजी की बाकी दीदियों के साथ हमारी क्लास नहीं होती है तो हमें लगता है कि हमारी बैटरी चार्ज नहीं हुई। मैं शुक्रगुजार हूँ अर्चना मैम और BSG की, उन सभी जिनकी वजह से हम जैसी महिलाओं को सपना देखने का और पूरा करने का मौका मिला। धन्यवाद।
I am grateful to BSG for creating such opportunities for members and non-members to expand their horizons, their life states. As a member of BSG, I am determined to continue to work towards the empowerment of women from all backgrounds so that we can actualize our mentor's dream of building a century of women, a century of life, a century of peace. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing such an inspiring report. Let's give them all a big round of applause. And now let's move on to the most awaited segment of today's evening, the insightful speeches by our esteemed speakers. I invite Professor Bijayalaxmi Nanda, Principal of Miranda House College, Delhi University, to deliver the keynote address.
I must say that following up those sharing is going to be very difficult. So again, a huge round of applause to those wonderful women, especially Shirina and Dipti. Thank you so much for that. I'm deeply honored and privileged to stand before the extremely distinguished audience here, and I extend my heartfelt thanks to Bharat Soka Gakkai for this opportunity. I would also like to acknowledge my fellow panelists here for their dedication and contribution to this significant cause. So a round of applause to the fellow panelists. We gather here today to celebrate the remarkable achievements of women who have dedicated their lives to breaking barriers. We saw one breaking barrier here. Please stand up, ma'am. That's a breaking of a barrier. The first woman who does this kind of a work. And shaping a new society where the dignity of life is upheld for everyone. The beautiful sharing of glow and lovely. Please stand up. I'm really, really grateful to you. This momentous occasion is not just a tribute to individual accomplishments, but a recognition of the collective power of women who strive to create a just, equitable, and compassionate world. So stand up for all of us. We can just put our hands up for all of us. And to all the men who are here as compassionate beings with us. Justice is hard. It demands our devotion as well as our understanding. For that reason, it must grip our emotions. We must feel its absence and presence with the depth of feeling that we associate with love. So Joshua Cohen says it in a book written by Martha Nussbaum, which says why love matters in justice. So I think we are going to speak about love today. So to all of us who are here because of love and connections, a round of applause to all of you. For centuries, women have faced numerous obstacles to have sought to limit their potential and silence their voices. Yet despite these challenges, women have consistently demonstrated extraordinarily high levels of resilience, courage, tenacity. I mean, wonderful stories here. We are going to hear them. From fighting for the right to vote to challenging social norms and leading movements for justice, women have been at the forefront of change. Allow me to share a personal story. Growing up in a family of 3 daughters, we often encountered societal biases that favored sons over daughters. We were always asked, beta nahi hai, bhai nahi hai. Despite this, my parents instilled in us the belief that we could achieve anything we set our hearts to. This unwavering support and encouragement empowered us to break through the limitations imposed by these outdated beliefs. However, what it did for me is that I intended right from childhood to examine this, what to me seemed to be an absurd idea. Why are daughters, not loved as much as sons? Why should families not love them? And one of the obstacles which we address today, which we call, is the idea of son preference in India. And that is why you have a declining child sex ratio, much, projected by the census reports. We have it till the 2011, 2021, of course, we don't have it, but we do know that there are lesser number of girls to boys in India. There have been some improvements due to government policies, but we still have to understand this idea of daughter aversion. These deep-seated biases have long perpetuated gender inequality, and they have denied countless girls the right to a fulfilling life. So the obstacle begins even before girls are born, and we need to be working on that cause. So all of us who are here, we have to strive for the idea of gender equality for women even before they are born. And that is a cause that I fought for all my life, and I still do, and something that I'm really, really attached to, only because it comes in from a very personal space. And that personal space is what feminists call the personal is the political. Whatever happens in our personal lives is something that actually gives birth to the various movements around us. So that's something that touches me. And then you come to, of course, the basic understanding that emerges from here is also linked up with women that you work for and work with. I teach in a women's college, I teach women students, I work with the women's movement. I've always been surrounded by women, my best friends are women. I don't think there could be a better cause for women, right? The fact is that I still do not think women are enemies of women. I believe women are each other's greatest support, and that should be something that we should be advocating. So, and working on this issue of son preference and daughter aversion, I met a young woman called Mitu Khurana Khosla, and she had twin daughters, and she faced a number of, and many of you may know about her from Satyame Jayate, and she faced a huge amount of discrimination and also marital violence in her family, with her marital family, and then she moved out of there and she gave birth to her daughters, and without the support of her marital family. And in fact, Mitu fought a 14 years battle. Her daughters are now grown up, they are working. One of them, they are studying and ready to work now. So in that process, in these 14 years, when I was doing a PhD on this issue and also working with Mitu very closely, campaigning for the rights of the girl child, I understood that this idea of advocating for a cause is actually very, very theoretical. It is only when you step into the field you realize how difficult it is. And every day you faced a number of obstacles. And those obstacles did not come in from the usual places. Of course, these were educated families which create this kind of discrimination. But you faced it from the courts. You faced it from places where the law was itself going to be implemented. They also suffered, or they had this idea of gender inequality right there in their own heart. So there was that preference even within them. So the fact is that patriarchy does not operate only within the societal norms. So the ideological consciousness of, let's say, a bureaucracy or a judiciary, it is also there. It is also there amongst women. I'm not saying it is not there, because women can also be bearers of patriarchy. But in that struggle, in that whole struggle for 14 years, we did not receive any kind of support from the various courts that we went to. But Mitu continued to fight. In fact, Mitu passed away in 2020, March 2020. And this whole struggle that took place, and this whole kind of a struggle that is very much there in the public domain, I'm not talking about it without that understanding, we come to a conclusion that this battle is long drawn. It's not going to get over today, and these obstacles continue. But I still feel that there is a cause for celebration, because every time Mitu would say, but I have made a better world for my daughters. So I think that's the joy of it, that we must create a better world. If it is not for us, it is for those who are born after us. So let's say a round of applause to women like Mitu who fight for their daughters, and that's an idea that I want to bring in. Then I move on from birth to education, and we still have the same barriers. You were talking about, washrooms not being available in, corporate sector settings. But yes, washrooms not being available also led to girls when they reach puberty not to be going to schools, and that is something that is significantly highlighted now by the government and other programs that have come into being. However, the idea of inequality is also about access. So how is education accessed? If it is stereotypically provided in the way in which it is provided, in the way in which STEM education still continues to, not have as many women or girls representing it. Still there is that, and gender parity index is just out. I'll try to reflect on it within the 10 minutes that if my time is up, please let me know. So, however, you still go back to looking at how Virginia Woolf said, and the literature, the writer, that women need to have, a room of her own, and some money to write fiction. And that continues to be one of the greatest obstacles for women, which is education leading to employment and self-reliance. This is something that, Serena, you brought up, very beautifully brought up, that it is very important. And now we do have a very active women's movement, which fought for generations. From 1940s onwards, I mean, even before that, during the time of, let's say, even during the time when Gandhi was fighting, women were very much a part of it. In fact, all of Gandhi's, the kind of methods that he used are pretty much influenced by the women's movement. Whether, let's say, just take a look at his nonviolence, compassion, striking by fasting. If you take a look at it, or getting associated with the salt, or using the charkha, all of these are symbols of, let's say, of women in every sense. If you take, he learned a lot from women, and he's also admitted to that. So you do see that. So you are going to look at those obstacles. So it's actually multi-pronged. Many of us have been able to overcome that due to the family background that we are born in, and many of us are still having to struggle for that. I moved from a small city in Bhubaneswar, and I came to Delhi. For the first 10 years of my life in college, I didn't say a word. I taught in my class. I was the best in my class in terms of sharing my ideas or talking to the students, but I always found it difficult in the Delhi scenario to share, to have a voice of my own. So it takes you that long. So it's not just about having those opportunities, is about capability. And that's an idea that Amartya Sen and Nussbaum talk about, that you may have the right to education, but are you going to be able to read? And that's a question that we need to ask ourselves. How do you develop the capabilities of women? And that's a question I leave you with. Then you move on from there to move on to looking at gender enabling workplaces. And yes, women do change the space. And I'm so glad that this is exactly my size. And thank you so much for that. Most of the time it's here and I'm like literally leaning over the top. So they're really never made for women. So I think women are enabling workspaces. They are making it better for men also. And in that sense, I've always said that whenever you ask a man or a woman or any other gender, which is the safest place in the world, they'll say, women were out at 12 after midnight. So the only way to define a safe space, and this is a real safe space, is to have as many women there. And I must say that that's the idea, that women need to reclaim the streets, they need to reclaim the nights, they need to be all out there in the public so that men can feel safer. Because women are there, all there, not just men, everyone, because women will make it safer for everyone, and that's the way it is for women, and it's good for us to recognize that. And yes, today through the various women's movements that have been there, which have negotiated for our rights, we have a number of rights. And yes, apart from Daiseko Ikeda, you have the Dalai Lama and others who have been a part of these movements for peace, for non-violence. These are very, very feminist ideas, and they have been incorporated by these great compassionate leaders, and I think it's important. But apart from sanitation facilities, the need for gender enabling workplaces, the most important thing that you need to look at is sexual harassment. I have my friend Mahua sitting here, and we have worked a lot on those issues. So I must say that when I grew up as a girl in a co-educational school, I faced a lot of microbullying. There are different forms of microbullying that you face all your life, and you tend to normalize that, and a lot of body shaming. And I remember I internalized all of that. So you can have outrage and anguish, or you could just internalize that, and that is how it works, whether it is about color or any of that. These experiences were painful, but they did bring in a determination with me that I would not let this happen to anyone. So there is a lot that you learn. And anybody who was kind to me or nice to me, I decided to evaluate them. So your role models were people who are kinder, who are softer, who created enabling spaces, who did not judge you, who validated you, who appreciated you. So I wanted to be like that. So I think that's another learning in my life. So sexual harassment, even in colleges which are women's colleges, you do face it, and it remains a very pervasive problem and is an obstacle. And you know the movement and how it came in. They decided to bring about a law not just about violence against women, but sexual harassment at workplace, because it is at the workplace that sexual harassment is mostly normalized. So quid pro quo harassment or hostile work environment, and that remains a pervasive problem, and that needs to be worked on. And therefore, when employment opportunities expand for women, the concept of safe cities is also important. And that should be implemented in universities and colleges to ensure a secure environment for all. So when young people move out, that's one to be looked at. Now, if you take a look at the gender power, the index of 2024, and I'm not going to talk much about that, you will realize that the World Bank and the World Economic Forum both are saying it will take about 132 years for us to make up for gender parity. So 132 or something like that, I'm not good with numbers, but it is something 100 plus years. So it looks like it's never going to happen. So there is still, but yet many strides have taken place, and thanks to all the women before us, it's been a possibility. I teach in Miranda House. It's actually, in some sense, with all its, and my teachers, many teachers, our friends are here. So it does remind you of Ruqayya, her Ruqayya Begum Sultana's dream, because it is actually a utopia. It's a woman's space. We are empowered there. You're free from societal constraints, and it continues to inspire us. So teaching there and then becoming a principal, and I'm going to end with that bit. You do look at it. But what I also learn, and I'm always alerted by friends around me, is to the concept of intersectionality. And intersectionality is a concept which was introduced by a black feminist, legal feminist called Kimberly Crenshaw. And she said that you need to not just look at equality at one, but overlapping inequalities. So how do you look at overlapping inequalities? You look at class, caste, gender, ethnicity, community, disability, sexuality, whatever else you have. So in that, I would say, and I have a friend who says it is the unorganized woman worker in Chhattisgarh. I say it's the girl child. So it's a way in which you see that intersectionality. I see that's the most vulnerable being, and how can we look at systemic discrimination that affect women. So every work that I do, I put it under that lens. And every day I'm alerted by young people around me to what is politically correct, what is being sensitive. And every day, the other day said I'm a sympathizer of the LGBTQIA movement. I was immediately, put to task and said, you are not a sympathizer, you have to be an ally. So, the whole word, the way in which it is changing, and we need to look at that. So empowerment is not something which is that I will, aapne kaha ki inhone kiya. No, you did it. You did it for them. So ye jo thought hai ki because you came forward, you broke that obstacle, so they are not beneficiaries, the people who are with us. We are not doing it for them. They are doing it for us. We are doing it together. So this idea of, not seeing it as a participant kind of a process is how I need to look at it. Now, I like to use something that the UNFPA uses when you look at how women are to be empowered, and this is the area where we need to work. One is enhancing assets for women. So it could be right to property, it could be other ways of looking at redistribution of property, accessing of land, having a house of their own. I believe that's a very important thing, having a space of their own. But going beyond that to look at collective ownership. And that's something that some of you can work on. You can think of, can women own a house collectively? Can they do collective farming, something that Bina Agarwal? But is there a way that women can live in a collective? And that's something we should think about, enhancing their access to assets, looking at their agency. So if Krishna Kumar, the educationist, says that if a girl is coming to class and you're teaching her and she's not raising any questions and she's not negotiating and bargaining and asking for equality, then you haven't done your job. So creating that agency so that they raise the right questions, so that they say no to dowry, because women actually may not say no to dowry. So how do you make them do that? So engaging with that agency is very important. Another major impact that needs to be looked at, and 3 A's, assets, agency, then aging. How can we work on aging? I share a home with my father. My mother passed away. So we share a home together and my spouse stays with us. Even that now faces some kind of a social backlash. ghar jamai or whatever the term is. So it is very much there. And I have one daughter, I have been asked many times, ek hi beti hai, that kind of. So it's not that it's all gone. It's very much there. So it's there, it's all hidden, it's all swept under the carpet, but it will crop up sometimes to torment you. So you need to look at aging so that the parents are not dependent on their children. There has to be some kind of mutual love rather than reciprocity of just caregiving. So we have to look at that relationship differently and allow children to just fly and look at mutual love and reciprocity. And of course, let them come back and do it on their own, but let's not be a burden. So maybe state needs to look at aging, and South Korea has done a lot of work around aging and social, pension that turned the clock on the girl, son preference. And now you do have a much better sex ratio. India also is going to show improvement due to certain policies and programs, we believe. Now I come to what is the 3 E's of empowerment. Education, but education which is sensitive, which is gender equal, where the teacher is not the only person saying, okay, just be like me. And who said that? Makiguchi. He said that don't be like me. Have the humility to tell them, be like you. Just let your potential shine. Don't have to be like me. Anyway, I am not the one who's the achiever here. You have to be. So just looking at that, that's a very important thing. What kind of education? How does it change you as a person? How authentic you are, and with what is your best? Employment, but employment in which ways? Look at the beautiful employment that women here have had. Social entrepreneurship, community building, self-reliance. We need to look at sustainable development goals like that. How do you examine that? And then, of course, empathy. Most important. How do you become more empathetic as empathetic, compassionate beings? I have 3 ideas. I won't go into details of it, but there is, Nasib Nicholas Taleb's idea of anti-fragility. You could have a status quo, be as resilient as possible and not change anything, or you could just break down and be completely fragile, or you could break down and come back better. Be anti-fragile. So that's one way of looking at it. Then there's an idea by Lehan Stemat, which I find very interesting, that, there's this Maslow's hierarchy of need theories. First basic needs, then your self-esteem and all of that. And then you come back to this community. But Lehan Stemat says, why don't we start with doing things for others? So maybe that will make us better individuals, and then in the process our basic needs will be fulfilled. Can we turn that table? So that's something we can look at, and maybe that's a barrier that you need to break. Now, I just will end with my own. So many of, Mahua is meeting me after a long time, and some other friends who are here, they'll tell you I was the least likely person to be in a chair and also heading a college. But it happened by default, and there is a process that is there for you. Because the way in which you imagine an authority figure, I was far from that. And so therefore, when I came in, I was told that you have to be autocratic, you have to be authoritarian, and at least you have to be firm and you have to be aggressive. I realized one had to be assertive. After all, one was leading an institution. But I also realized I didn't have to change myself. And I really worked hard on that I wouldn't change myself. I am non-hierarchical, I am flawed, I am vulnerable, I make mistakes, I learn from that, and I believe in collective wisdom. So that's how I learned, and that's the way it is. Now, I feel that, I don't know if I have earned the privilege of your time, but I want you to think about 2 things now. Sunita Williams is, of course, stuck in a particular situation, so we should pray for that. She broke the biggest barrier into space research, one of the first in many ways, so we should pray for that. The other is for young women like Mitu Khurana and who fight for their daughters. We should actually be them, or bring about a world where daughters can be treated as equal. And wherever we feel that we are creating those hierarchical authoritarian steps, and it can happen to any one of us, we should step back and look at us. So I think empathy being the most important way to look at this particular way in which we can break barriers, build a society where the dignity of life is upheld for everyone. Together we can create a future where every woman and girl has the opportunity to thrive and contribute to a better world. I have to say every woman, girl, and all genders, that's important. But apart from that, I did find something from Daisaku Ikeda, and I'm going to end with that. And I found a lot of resonance of that with me. As I was told that I have to be autocratic or at least aggressive. A university's mission is not to produce people of authority, but people of true ability, intelligence and conviction who will dedicate themselves to the good of the people. I bow down to that thought. Thank you so much for this patient listening.
Thank you very much for encouraging and inspiring us with your words, Ms. Nanda. Let's give her another huge round of applause. I now request Dr. Rita Jairath to address the audience.
Good evening, everyone, and it's such a joy to be here. The moment you enter, the positivity and it's such a vibrant place. My God, the first time I came here, I felt that that love and acceptance, which I sense very easily because of the kind of life I have led. And it is really an honor for me, and it's like kind of surprising, I must say. It's just amazing. I've never been to a place like this. Thank you for having me. And the foundation is love, so that's amazing. So we talking about breaking barriers. There is never one particular incident in our life and then suddenly it's lo and behold, there is a metamorphosis and things change. We want to break shackles or something like that. It's a kind of a sum total of things that have happened in our life, our inherent disposition and our response to what has happened. And sometimes you may be in the most difficult situation all by yourself, not able to go out into the world and just be yourself. But in that situation itself, in absolute isolation, when you're giving it your best, along with parallel surrender to the universe, you are breaking barriers. So I think that in every situation you must do that. And I was born to, my father was in the Air Force, and when I was born, when my mother conceived me, she began to get auditory hallucinations. She probably couldn't pull through the trauma, of losing two children before me. And so she had schizophrenia. And everybody thought it would be a boy. So, let's just, go ahead with this in spite of her extreme condition. To the, extreme in the sense that her schizophrenia was such that she should burn her hair and cut her womb with a blade and eat glass, and that sort of an extreme, shouting at the voices that she heard. It was that kind of an extreme. And then I was born a girl. So a little disappointment was there, but then at least there was a child, and they had somebody, they became parents. And then of course my father was he was hell-bent upon treating her. He said that I am an incorrigible optimist. I will hope until the end of my life that there will be some miracle drug or therapy that will cure her. And then he began to change. He said that she is my Durga, and he dedicated his life to serving her. I in my lifetime, I saw very few men who looked after their wife like that for nearly 3.5 decades. And so I call him a saint, and he is my ideal. And in that process, you evolve a lot when you're facing difficult situations like that. So, he had the pressure of the profession, the professional pressures, and looking after my mother, and that extreme condition kind of, I was the only soft target. So I was, at the slightest provocation, I was beaten blue, black. My mother was not there to take care of me. And when I, I thought that that's how things are supposed to be. I might not have been happy. But then as I gained consciousness and I grew, I went out and I saw that the children in the neighborhood who played along with me got that kind of love and adulation, and that kind of increased when they performed on stage and did something good. And I said, this is what I want. And then at a very young age, I started participating in a lot of activities on stage, and that was probably the beginning of my Bharatnatyam. So while I was beaten at home, I was getting, a lot of adulation in school, trying to do my best. And also, Bharatnatyam, how it started was that I wouldn't get those pretty dresses like the other children would get, but that dressing up on stage was my opportunity to dress up. So it is what you make of it. I think that was the beginning of my spiritual journey also, that if you're being beaten up, you're still kind, you understand that this is a broken world, and you learn to accept. I did that very early in my life. And then I was studying in Hindu college. My husband, who was in Merchant Navy, he came to me and said that my mother will look after you. You're very brilliant. You will become the doctor. I will be on the ship. Why don't you get married to me? And then on the first day, it was a disaster. It never happened. She wouldn't let me study. She was like quite a dictator, I must say. But, and then my son was born. So I had until then come to a dead end, and I thought that I will make him, what I wanted to become, and he will be the best version of himself. But then in very less time, he was diagnosed with autism. And then I was told he'll never be able to speak. He would be non-verbal, and then my life, again, I hit the wall. That was when I thought that, some doctor told me that, these children do speak, they become functional and reach a certain level, but you have to kind of give 2 decades to this, 2.5 decades, and then there is no guarantee. They just, they are functional, they reach a borderline, but then you got to do it 24 hours for 2 decades. You lose your career, you lose everything. I was dependent at that time, but then I said that this is what I will do, because I wanted to add to the collective consciousness. I wanted to create a human possibility that this is possible. I think just by doing your best in every situation, I think you can contribute to the society. You may not need to. Of course, it helps a lot if you are a leader and you go out into the world and help as many people as you can. But when you are in such a dire situation and then you have nothing with you, you can still strive to do your best, and that too creates a possibility. So then he grew up, and when he was about 15 years old, he said that he wanted to have that muscular body. Until then, I was like kind of not being myself. My life was very, completely devoted to him. And then I took him to the gym. And in those days, women doing weight training was considered kind of, not done. It wasn't accepted. Heavy weight training, no way. But and when I went to the gym, I was like, people would ridicule me, this clumsy pair of mother and child, and he's funny and she's just into heavy weights. What does she want out of life? Then I started studying the subject, and then I got to know the benefits of women doing weight training, and I felt that I must take it to the next level. We didn't have anybody in India. I traveled across the globe. I was hell-bent upon doing this. Now, this is what I want to do. And I became the first woman bodybuilder from India. So I competed. So a lot of social stigma, wearing the competition suit and exposing your body, but men can wear trunks and women cannot. To this day, we have girls. I sit in the international judging panel. We have girls coming from the Middle East who want to participate. They do a competition, they win their medal, and they go to another country because then a fatwa is issued. Or they come in secretly. They never post on Instagram or Facebook, but they do what they want to do. It teaches you so much. It's such a self-encompassing, it's an all-encompassing subject, bodybuilding. There is so much to it you don't realize. It's reaching the human potential, the potential of human body as what you can become, and conditions your mind to absolute ultimate discipline. My son did his graduation and post-graduation. He was not able to cope up with a very theoretical education here. I sent him to UK, and everybody thought I was mad. I spent my life savings on him, but I wanted him to study. I wanted to do this, that this child in the autism spectrum can do it. There is a possibility. So he did his post-graduation. And then he was speaking. I taught him word by word. He was speaking. He did his training in classical music. He performs on stage now. He's working in Lalit Hotel at the front desk. So why not? At that time, what I decided was that I think even if you don't have the talent for something, it seemed he didn't have the instinct to speak. But if you can break something into nano steps and conquer it one by one, you can train your mind to do anything in this world, anything. So, so we add to the collective consciousness by doing our best. And he's still in the autism spectrum. He still has his difficulties, but he's functional. He helps me. He's a great asset. People who know me know how wonderful he is. And he's very loving. He's very affectionate. Yesterday, I was at EBAS, the mental hospital in Chadra, for a test. And he saw a woman hitting her child very badly, and he couldn't see through it. And the kind of compassion he has developed, I think we must we focus on making our children good human beings rather than having that conventional success. And I have seen lack of acceptance when my mother had schizophrenia, lack of acceptance when I was made fun of because of my son, and it has played havoc on my self-esteem. And that is why I say that when I came here, the kind of love I felt just in the aura, the vibration of this place is just mind-blowing. So today I am all set. I love the word second act because I'm all set for a second act. I am going to restart my studies at Penn State University, in health administration. That will be my second master's. I have a vision to enhance the health of sports persons from a perspective that should have been done long back. Sports person, we usually take sports persons from tribal areas, especially girls. They are not educated, but they're very strong. Most of the girls in tribal areas, villages, are extremely strong. That happens in the Paralympic Committee also. When they come to Sai, they get good food and they feel they are playing. They don't even feel they are doing that kind of extreme hard work. And so since they get this kind of comfort, they do so well. All the girls' teams are doing better than the boys' teams, with due apologies to men. We recently had the Women Football Strategy Development workshop, and the women rating is 60. It's very easy to come to the World Cup by 2031, but men are still at 124 in spite of the stars that we have and in spite of the sponsorship that we have. And the focus is on their performance, immediate performance, and the maximum they have is a bit of sports psychology and the physiotherapy. But what about oxidative stress? What about their career after they retire? Why cannot sports be structured? Why cannot we have departments on the wear and tear and the prolonged implications of their health in their old age, because they are pushing their body to an extreme? I want to take up that subject, and believe me, the people in US, they really love the subject, and they have given me an opportunity to do the research. I'm very excited about it, and when comes to another barrier, that when I said I want to study, and in mid-50s she wants to study, and a lot of people raise their eyebrows. Your son is 36, you must retire and be happy. But then when I got the admission in all the 12 institutions where I had applied, so that said, that answered them all. So I am just, sharing my life experiences, that we should not hold any bars, and, whatever situation, sometimes we are pushed to a dead end, and that helps us to create pathways and set examples, so that I hope that my life can help in, telling people that there is this one example, this possibility exists, and it will help people who have children in the autism spectrum, people who want to study at an older age, or sometimes when you are bullied to an extent that you cannot take it, be kind to the person who is harsh to you. It's a broken world. Let us love, and let us spread happiness and joy. And I am telling you, I experienced this in great intensity here, so I'm very thankful for this opportunity. Thank you. I am not sure I spoke for 10 minutes. I just spoke my heart out. So apologies if I've increased the time, but I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you for your words of inspiration, Dr. Jairath. Let's collectively give her another huge round of applause. I now invite Ms. Archana Dutta to address the audience.
Okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, that's to say the least, but I don't have a story like either of them, and I don't know how do they make women like these, right? I mean, you must be wondering why am I not like even an iota of what they are, and I'm going through the same feeling. So I'm going to firstly thank Bharat Soka Gakkai, and you saw what transformation they have done to Sunera and my entire fleet of women at Pedalon. They are amazing. BSG came into my life. I don't know how, to be honest. I don't even know. So all I can tell you is that you just need to set out your intention and magic happens. And I did not plan this. I did not plan standing here and speaking to any of you today, but magic does happen. And that's all I have to tell you today, that just let yourself dream. Let yourself just make something possible for your own self, and it will just fall in place. So I guess I wrote a few things. I don't know how much will it really hold today after hearing them, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and how did I reach here, whatever I've done. So yeah, all right. So disclaimer is that I have a beautiful marriage and a blessed life. That's a disclaimer before I tell you my story. And my husband hasn't come today, so that's great, because then, I can speak whatever I can. All right, so what I'm going to share with you is in a storytelling format, to invite you to reflect with me on why women have to actually break barriers. And what are these barriers? Are we perpetuating them amongst ourselves and passing them down to future generations is a question that my daughter often asks me. And to be honest, my life in my second act started after my daughter started asking me the right questions. So they say when you ask the right questions, the right answers come. And I think I would like to give that to her. And why are organizations like BSG and others are essential for building a community of aware individuals who grow together, blossom, and create an inclusive, equitable world. And I have to actually say what the others have said, that this room is just powerful. This room is so amazing. And before you even enter, you can feel this. You can just feel the energy. So my name is Archana Dutta, and I've always believed that I was adaptable. Growing up, when asked what I really wanted to become, my answer was simply a good wife. It may sound old-fashioned now, but women often see this role modeled around them, don't we? Especially in our times. We effortlessly take on these roles, being a good daughter, a good wife, a good mother, a good colleague, without anyone actually explaining or teaching us anything. When we don't excel in these roles, we often feel inadequate. Despite my fulfilling career with incredible organizations like Lufthansa and Hyatt for 28 years, my ambition was always to balance life, giving attention to home and kids while feeling guilty about pursuing personal joy. We all feel that, right? This is a common story. And please don't get me wrong, I wasn't miserable. I was happy because I was taught that this fulfilling responsibilities, creating pleasant environments, being loved by my husband, looked up by my kids, and tolerated by my in-laws was the best one could have achieved, right? So, however, when the duties of life settled down, questions started to arise. Who am I? What am I here for? How do I want to live my life? This introspection led me to a 9-day silence program, after which I came back and I said, if I don't take this opportunity to resign now, I will never do this. And I thus embarked on a journey to discover the Archana I actually never knew. This new Archana wasn't as adaptable as I thought. She became rather assertive. When you start questioning your surroundings, it's not just that the others can't handle it, you yourself struggle to accept this change. Strong, independent, assertive women are often not seen as good girls, in inverted commas. So despite having a fulfilled life, there were many aspects which were still unfulfilled. Each day I began understanding myself better, realizing that if I wasn't complete inside, I wouldn't love myself enough or care about my own desires and passions, I could never genuinely be fulfilled externally. This realization led to the birth of Second Act. Second Act is a metaphor of self-awareness, a deeper probing, untapped potential, and an exploration. Each day from then, this term is coined by my husband, Second Act, because when I was, from a high place of, earning big time money and having an identity which was on titles, when you come crashing down, that's when I think men like my husband come to our rescue and he says, Archana, be ready for your second act. And I think that is something that gave me like a spark that I live for since the last 4 years. So this realization led to the birth of Second Act. It's a metaphor of self-awareness, deep probing, untapped potential, and exploration. Each day became a journey of discovery and unlearning, leading to emergence of this authentic Archana. Experiencing the power of this space, Second Act evolved into a platform which did women retreats, corporate workshops, and podcasts to share incredible Second Act stories, empowering voices and helping people and organizations transform into this untapped potential and the untapped desires that we all are living for. I also ventured into this beautiful social space because here I was thrown into it. I was actually never meant to be. When you're flying high, I was with Lufthansa for 20 years and 8 years in Hyatt hotels. When you're so used to just having one part of life into your life, you don't know what this other part of life is. And then when I started Second Act, Plan India, it's a big NGO which was looking for a women empowerment program in sanitation space, asked me if it is okay and I can work with sanitation workers in a space called pink toilets and where sanitation. I didn't even know what the problems of not having a toilet by your side was, because that is not the exposure that you get. And without even knowing what I was getting into, I said, okay, let me see what this space is. At least it's working with women. And for 1.5 years, this space transformed me. I was sitting in communities, I was sitting in slum areas. I was looking at women so closely. I thought, oh my goodness, where was I all this while? 28 years felt like I didn't know what I was doing with my life. Said the real impact, the corporate workshops which I was doing did not have an iota of the impact what the impact at this space was. I saw women flourishing, I saw women knowing themselves and the impact that it was creating. It was only after 1.5 years when Plan India wound up the project and we could impact 350,000 women in just 1.5 years. I thought, really, I thought I can't leave this space. I saw hope in the eyes of women and I saw this fire in them. And I said, okay, this is the space that I need to be in. And that's when Pedal On was born. And I say that I help women in the underprivileged sections to really pedal on to their second act. And I think that really fits in well with what I'm doing as well. So I ventured into the social world, become the catalyst for underprivileged young girls and women to embark on their second act through Pedal On. Today, as I said, I've done more than 50 retreats and workshops, 150 guests on my Discover Your Second Act podcast, a podcast production company which I recently opened to help others to empower their voices, and a Pedal On center producing more than 10,000 sustainable items and empowering 250 women in this space. Breaking barriers has just become a norm. I would say, to blossom, shine, and lead a complete life, I urge everyone to first break their internal barriers. Know yourself first. What are your desires? What are you doing? Who are you? Why are you here? What's the big why that we have to really answer to? And the ones that who have created that for themselves, can we just empower the next person sitting next to us? Only then we are aware and empowered ourselves when we can empower everybody else around us. So I would say thanks for listening, and I hope my story gave you a push to challenge your own barriers today, nudge yourself a little bit towards your second act.
Thank you very much for your encouraging words, Ms. Datta. Let's have a resounding round of applause. I now request Ms. Namrta Bangia to address the audience.
Good evening, everyone. So last speaker for the day, I promise this will be a summary speech. You've heard it all. I'm going to share a bit about my story, what got me here, and just a few learnings. Also, I was listening to all our speakers and thinking of some of the points that I'm going to share here today are sort of learnings that we have every single day from each woman around us. So thank you for having me here. Good evening once again. I am Namrta Bangia. I'm very, very grateful to my mentor, Dr. Daisaku Ikeda, for fostering me as a member of Soka Gakkai. I joined Soka Gakkai. I joined Soka Gakkai at the age of 21, almost 19 years ago, and I'm very, very grateful to be here. Thank you, BSG, for inviting me here to share my perspective and my journey. It is very, very special for me to be part of this Women's Symposium. Why? Because 15 years ago, sitting right here, what was then known as the International Peace Center, listening to one young woman who had returned from Japan after attending a Soka Gakkai training course, I made a determination to work to inspire the women of India. So this is indeed very, very special for me to be here. Thank you. I'm going to talk about my experience of breaking through barriers in the corporate sector and some of the learnings that I've had. In 2016, I did something bold. I embarked on a journey to create a global forum to bring leaders together to discuss sustainable infrastructure development. This would comprise a series of conferences where the leaders would come together and we would discuss promotion of new technologies in public transport to enable countries to meet sustainable development goals and the targets that had been set under the Paris Climate Change Agreement. No one that I knew from India had done this before, certainly not a woman. On paper, it was a great idea to create an impact and also a profitable business for the company that I work for. On the execution front, it proved to be a humongous and a nerve-wracking task. There were a lot of hits, but also quite a few misses, with business losses, sleepless nights, and many times regrets from leaders to attend such events. Resolving only business problems was not enough. Many questioned my ability to initiate a forum of this magnitude at a young age, that too with a team comprising mainly young women. At these events, many times, I would be the only woman in the room or on the panel of speakers. I also noticed at some of these events where there were women, most questions were asked by men, to men. Moreover, as a woman from India, or as they say, a woman of color, speaking at and moderating such international forums presented its own unique challenge. On one occasion, a male peer remarked that perhaps it would be preferable for white people to moderate such forums. It was exhausting, painful, and overwhelming. Why am I telling you all this story today? This is not a story of fixing bias. I'm sharing this story today because at the age of 32, perhaps for the very first time in my life, I did something brave and ventured into unknown territory. I took a risk. Why is this risk-taking even significant? Why are we even talking about it? That's because society conditions girls to be perfect, right? Perfect grades, flawless performance, ideal looks, and more. In contrast, boys are encouraged to play boldly, be adventurous, be competitive. And so as we grow older, men become more habitual at risk-taking, whether they're starting a new business or they're asking someone out on a date. Studies even show, and these are many, many studies that have happened, studies even show that men will apply for a job if they meet 60% of the qualifications, but women will still question their potential if they meet 100% of the requirements. To achieve perfection, women are constantly told to lean in and ask for support. They are told to have it all, get that MBA, become a CEO, get married, have kids before 30, have a perfect home, so on and so forth. They are also asked to stand their ground, have body language that is assertive, that is strong, all the while remaining warm and likable. Wow, so many pressures on women and also so many studies done on women. And when we struggle to achieve this ridiculously unachievable goal, we are told that we don't believe in ourselves enough. This self-doubt is actually very common and is often paralyzing. So I started to think that what is in the psyche of successful women that allows them to break through self-doubt? What is it that makes them tick? What is it that makes them going every single day? I believe it is their focus on building not confidence, but courage. And I think each of the stories that we've heard today talks about having courage in one's life. High-achieving women take firm steps to move forward, even while struggling with their fears, self-esteem, and self-confidence. Now, this courage may itself seem like a big word. I read about it. I thought it was quite intimidating. But this courage can be learned. It's like a muscle that gets stronger every time you use it. So the question comes, how can you build this courage on a daily basis? And I think this phrase was used by all the speakers here. An easy way to train your mind is to begin with small-scale acts of courage. So these micro acts of courage, as they are called. These micro acts of bravery have a cumulative effect and provide long-term returns. So experiment with acts of courage every day. Such as raising your hand more often to ask questions, I don't know if this happens, if we've observed this, a lot of times we're in a room where there are men and women, and we will hesitate to ask a question thinking that I'm not sure if I'm asking the right question. So let's try raising our hand more often. Let's volunteer for that difficult project at work. Let's go for that long pending workout, or let's pick up that hobby that makes us happy, or start writing that blog and more. And what's better? Even reward yourself for these micro acts of bravery. This courage thrives in a supporting environment. Disclaimer here, I come from a very supportive family. So I've received tremendous encouragement from my parents to always believe in myself, from my brother, who has always asked me to keep an open mind, and from my husband, who's been my friend for a very long time, to step outside my comfort zone and to go for my dreams. I also discovered the 3 treasures of Buddhism at a very young age: a mentor, Buddhist teachings, and the fabulous Soka community. My mentor's guidance, my faith in the Buddhist teachings, and my friends in Soka have given me the strength to start each day afresh, filled with a fresh resolve, fresh determination to accomplish my purpose of creating impact at a global level. So to all of you ladies out there, and there are many more in this room, I recommend that you commit to finding these 3 treasures in your life: a mentor whose wisdom you can trust, your purpose through which you can create value, and friends who will support you through thick and thin. To all the men here, I would like to say, encourage the women in your life to be fearless and not flawless. So coming back to my story, let's circle back to where I left it, where it was very, very overwhelming. With grit and resilience, my team and I advanced bit by bit. On some days, this movement seemed very slow and painful, just like building a muscle. I'm very proud to share that this group of young women to date has organized nearly 75 global events with leaders attending from 50 countries. Our activities have ranged from promoting electric buses to discussing new technologies, data and AI for sustainable infrastructure development. Our commitment to increase diversity and inclusivity at these forums resulted in an increase in women speakers from just 12 in 2018 to 121 in 2023, a notable rise given the statistics of women in STEM. For many of these women, it was their inaugural experience addressing an audience despite their established leadership. At an individual level, I have moderated over 100 global keynote panels, delivered presentations, and published research papers read by organizations worldwide. Breaking through barriers of color and nationality, last year, I moderated a session on promoting public transport in the US with the Deputy White House Advisor to the President of the United States at a conference with 250 participants in Washington, D.C. Why is this courage so important? Why do you, a single woman, have to be courageous? Betty Williams, Nobel Peace Prize winner, in her dialogue with Dr. Daisaku Ikeda said, and I quote, "Fear is contagious, but so is courage, passing from person to person and growing stronger along the way." The voice of this 34-year-old woman speaking against violence in Northern Ireland brought together 35,000 women that led to peace in the country. In the end, I'd like to ask, what impact will you have on the world around you? I'm reminded about Mahayana Buddhism's analogy of Indira's net, a metaphor for the interdependence of all life. I'd like you all to take a moment to close your eyes and imagine this net. Yeah, go ahead, close your eyes. And imagine this net as I share Dr. Ikeda's words that he spoke at during his address at Columbia University, and I quote, "Surrounding the palace of the Indian deity Indira, a magnificent net expands limitlessly outward. At each knot in the net hangs a beautiful mirror-like jewel, reflecting on its surface all the other jewels. No jewel is at the center of the infinite net, yet each jewel is at the center. If one pulls at one jewel knot, all the other jewels around it move and shimmer, unquote. I don't shine alone, and with each woman shining, my life sparkles too. We are all interconnected. Dr. Ikeda also says, when the jewels reflect every other jewel, they produce a new light, creating infinite value, a global civilization that shines with magnificent brilliance. As I close this address, thinking of the commitment I made in this room 15 years ago, I have only one question for all of you. What determination will you make today to be courageous so that your life shines and so the lives of all women around you shine too? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bangia. Let's continue to give her a big round of applause. I would once again like to thank each of our distinguished speakers for sharing their most valuable thoughts. I now request BSG Chairperson Mr. Vishesh Gupta to share the closing address.
Very good evening, everyone. So first of all, my heartiest congratulations on this very thought-provoking, very interesting symposium. I could make out from the claps which were made throughout the symposium. And also I would like to thank all our esteemed speakers for your valuable insights. You all shared your wonderful life stories, which was very encouraging, very empowering, and also many kind words for BSG, for our members. So thank you very much for everything. After the speakers had spoken, we were supposed to have a Q&A session. And then I was supposed to come and give the closing remarks, but we are not having Q&A because of paucity of time. So I hope that is okay with all of you and also with all of you. So in my closing remarks, I want to share major takeaways which I have had listening to all the 4 speakers in the last more than 1 hour. So first of all, I feel that like Dr. Daisaku Ikeda always says, that 21st century is a century of women. And I think looking at the topic of the symposium we have today, my major takeaway is that the women have really arrived. They have really broken the barriers to create a new age where the dignity of all life is respected. And this is an unstoppable momentum. No one can stop the women of today. And being a man, I am saying this with all my humility. So as I shared that, I would like to speak about my major takeaways. So first, I would like to share a few words about our esteemed speakers, and beginning with Professor Nanda. I had the privilege of meeting her in her campus, in her office in Miranda House a few weeks ago, and she came across as a very enterprising person and very open to new ideas. So Jaya and I were there, and we talked to her about sustainability, what initiatives BSG is taking in sustainability, and we also told her that we organize a sustainability focused exhibition called Seeds of Hope and Action. And also we form SDG clubs. So she said, why don't you do one in Miranda House? And we are doing one on the 8th and 9th of July. What I like today in your address, amongst many other things, 2 things I want to share. One is you said that women are not enemies of women, but they are great supporters of each other. Why I'm saying this? Because it's a societal thinking that sometimes women are enemies of women. Women feel that they are born to suffer. But I think what you shared today was very enlightening. And the second thing you shared is about 3 E's of empowerment, which is education, which means citing Mr. Makiguchi, the founder of our organization, Soka Gakkai. that how we need to grow as our own selves, not to grow as somebody else. And the second E is employment, and the third E is about empathy, which is talking about the compassion, which is the center point in the Buddhist practice. It was a pleasure to meet Ms. Jairath a few weeks ago in our office. She shared about it. She had come here. And as you all have heard her life story, very multifaceted personality. So on one hand, a Bharatnatyam dancer. She also is a Hindustani classic vocalist like her son. And also on the other hand, bodybuilder, TEDx speaker, and many, many other things. What I liked, from her address today, I would like to share 3 points. One is, she said that if you want to break barriers, you have to give your best, work hard, and then you can contribute to society. So I think your entire life story revolves around this point. And the second thing you said is that break your problem into nano steps and then train your mind accordingly. And the third is that how we should focus on making our children good human beings. I think that was a very wonderful point. So thank you very much once again. About Ms. Archana, I think she is one who has really lived the topic of today's symposium. Worked in the corporate for 27 years with companies like Lufthansa and Hyatt. And she started her second act with Pedal On and many other initiatives, driving home the point that women can indeed break barriers and they can always create something new or out of the blue. So one point which I really liked in your address today was that how we need to break internal barriers first and to empower the person who is sitting next to you. And then it becomes a chain reaction. Because this is very close to the philosophy we practice in BSG, that how we can empower and encourage the person who is sitting right in front of us. So I think this had a good resonance with each one of us sitting here. So thank you once again. And finally, Namrta, many of us know her very well. As she said, for last 20 years, she has been a member of BSG. Her story, I feel, is of how one young woman can break global barriers, charter a career spanning 2 decades, and build a forte in women leadership. And she mentioned very cursorily about her program which she did in the White House in the United States. But I think that won her a lot of accolades and appreciation. So a big thank you and a big round of applause for you. I think one of the main points you talked, Namrta, was about courage. And you very beautifully put it that how when we use courage, we are strengthening every muscle of our being. And micro acts of courage bring long-term returns. I think that was a very weighty statement. And we should step out of our comfort zone and we should chase our dreams. And men should encourage women to be fearless and not flawless. So that is my takeaway. I would also like to thank our friends and guests who have come here today. Thank you very much for gracing the occasion with your presence. And I would also like to thank our members of Bharat Soka Gakkai who are attending the symposium here in the headquarters, and also those who are also joined us on the Vimeo broadcast. So thank you once again. To our Sunshine members for your enchanting chorus. Let's give them a big hand. And last but not the least, I want to thank all our members who have worked behind the scenes to make today's symposium a big success. In closing, I would like to quote the following lines of Dr. Daisaku Ikeda. He says that women are, in my view, natural peacemakers. As givers and nurturers of life, through their focus on human relationships, they develop a deep sense of empathy that cuts through to the underlying human realities. Thank you very much and have a very nice evening.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. I once again request BSG Chairperson, Mr. Vishesh Gupta, to present mementos to our speakers. Our keynote speaker, Professor Bijayalaxmi Nanda. Our esteemed speaker, Dr. Rita Jairath. Our revered speaker, Ms. Archana Dutta. And our admired speaker, Ms. Namrta Bangia. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, and thank you once again to our esteemed speakers for their most heartfelt presence today. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the 4th BSG Women's Symposium. A special thanks to all our guests and members who have joined us here today at the headquarters and on the broadcast. Let's say a bye to them.